Welcome to another edition of the Backyard Professor videos. I'm Kerry Schertz, the Backyard Professor. I've been talking about this argument against the Book of Mormon that it has no archaeological proof for it, no historical veracity. There's nothing in favor of the Book of Mormon. In answer to this, once again, I've made several videos so far. I have several more to make. Daniel C. Peterson has a very interesting observation in the book, The Book of Mormon Authorship Revisited, New Evidence for Ancient Origins. This is edited by Noel B. Reynolds, another very fine Book of Mormon scholar. Daniel C. Peterson, in his article, Is the Book of Mormon True? Notes on the Debate, the 1997 text. He's discussing some of the criticisms against the changes in the Book of Mormon. The vast majority of them are completely trivial, very similar to changes in the Bible. There's one change that the critics have discussed, however, that they make a big whoop-de-doo, and that is the one about the change of a doctrinal stance in the Book of Mormon about Jesus Christ. But let's explore this. Dr. Peterson explores it. He says, in the 1830 edition, Jesus Christ is identified as the Eternal Father at 1 Nephi 11:21 and 13 verse 40. The modern English printing of those two verses calls him the Son of the Eternal Father. Likewise, 1 Nephi 11:32 calls him the Everlasting God in 1830. But the modern versions of the Book of Mormon say the Son of the Everlasting God in current editions, while 1 Nephi 11:18 termed Mary the Mother of God. Our modern versions term her as the Mother of the Son of God, before it was altered to read. In more recent printings, but are these changes really doctrinally significant? That's the question. Latter-day Saints believe that Jesus Christ is God. In fact, we affirm that he was the Jehovah of the Old Testament. Margaret Barker, as one of my videos has shown, has also shown how Jehovah and Jesus Christ are the same person as well. What we say is, in a very real and important manner, Jesus, through the atonement, is our Father of our salvation. Christ is and will be the Father of those who accept his atoning sacrifice. Viewed in this light, the 1830 renderings of the verse just mentioned, these aren't at all incorrect. Their subsequent modifications, however, obviously clarify the passages and make them more precise. That's not necessarily a doctrinal change at all, but the critics think it is. In Alma 46:19, some critics have said, in the modern English editions of the Book of Mormon, they say that Moroni went forth among the people, waving the rent part of his garment in the air, that all might see the writing that he wrote on it. This is when he was rallying the troops for his war. He wrote upon the rent part. In the original 1830 edition, how this read was, and speaks of the writing upon the rent. It doesn't say anything about rent part. It just talks about Moroni writing on his rent. Now, this makes bad English. This is true. It does make bad English. It is impossible to write on a rent, since a rent is an absence of cloth. It's hardly possible to wave a rent in the air. See, the critics make a lot of fun of this. Peterson is talking about Ed Decker's criticisms here. Decker is evidently unaware that the verse as rendered in the 1830 edition represents perfect acceptable Hebrew usage. In Hebrew, the Book of Mormon claims to have been written originally by ancient Hebrews anyway, which is quite interesting. In Hebrew, is it evidence of an error? Rather, it is a genuine Hebraism. John Tovetnus has shown that. Hugh Nibley has shown that. Now Daniel C. Peterson notes that. And now I'm noting that. It's time for the critics to come up to date. Rather than being a criticism against the Book of Mormon, the rent is a genuine Hebraism. It's evidence for its divine ancient origin. Then finally, skipping over to page 153 of Peterson's article, Another issue of history and archaeology appears to further illustrate that Nephi's construction of a temple very similar to Solomon's, recorded in 2 Nephi 5, this has drawn a good deal of attention from critics who say it's absolutely impossible because Solomon's temple was built through many years and he had thousands of workers. Nephi couldn't have imitated Solomon's temple. Peterson notes, seeming problems in the Book of Mormon often dissolve when we attempt to find out what the text actually says instead of what we imagine it to be saying. In other words, it's time to read a little bit more carefully. What does it mean to be built after the manner of Solomon's temple? I submit that it means to be patterned after, to have the same general layout of Solomon's temple without necessarily being on the same scale. Now, what is remarkable is we know that smaller temples did in fact exist in ancient Israel, and these smaller temples were built after the manner of Solomon's temple. Biblical evidence, notes the Israeli archaeologist Avraham Negev, points to the existence of numerous other cult places all over Palestine, not just in Jerusalem now, but all over Palestine, of cult places. Similar to the temple that was had in Jerusalem, these shrines have now been found at Arad and Lachish, both of a very similar plan, according to Negev. The most remarkable discovery at Arad is the temple which occupied the northwestern corner of the citadel. It originally occupied the northwestern corner, and its orientation, the general plan, and the contents, especially the tabernacle, these are similar to the Solomon's temple. That's what Negev says. Yet the Arad temple was only a fraction of the size of Solomon's temple. It was much smaller. Significantly, it survived in use until approximately the time of Lehi. So these are three more examples that I believe show that the argument against the Book of Mormon, that it has no archaeology, no history, that it has serious doctrinal problems, so on and so forth, that argument is simply false.